Welcome to Willamelane's Emergency Action Training Program for the Adult Activity Center. Willamalane offers a wide range of fun and exciting activities. However, to ensure the safety of our guests and employees, it's important to be prepared at all times to respond to an emergency. In the event of an incident, Willamalane employees are required to follow an Emergency Action Plan, otherwise known as EAP. This training program has two objectives. The first objective is to minimize the risks that Willamalane employees and our patrons could be exposed to. The second objective is to ensure that as a Willamalane employee, you understand and are able to implement an emergency action plan in a number of various emergencies. You will learn how to respond to potential emergencies that include a medical emergency, a lockdown, an aggressive patron, and a building evacuation. You may encounter a wide range of other emergencies, but these are more likely to occur specifically at the Adult Activity Center. Many of these situations will be medical in nature. There are two major types of medical incidents. A non-emergency injury is one that requires only first aid and is not life-threatening. In these situations, it's appropriate to call MedExpress at 541-228-3111, only for employee injuries. A medical emergency may be life-threatening and usually requires a professional emergency response team. The employee should call 911 to activate this response. Due to the types of emergency medical issues of the population we serve at the Adult Activity Center, the medical community has directed us to call 911 immediately instead of MedExpress. Keep in mind that a non-serious emergency always has potential to escalate and become life-threatening. The following is an example of a medical emergency that could occur at the Adult Activity Center. Are you prepared to respond appropriately? In this particular situation, a patron is seriously injured and needs professional medical attention.
Helen, what happened? Carrie, go get the cart.
I'll be right back.
The first Willamalane employee to activate the emergency action plan is considered the first responder. The first responder is responsible for designating a person to call 911, administering first aid, and asking the front desk staff to page an announcement for the response team to go to the emergency location. Calling 911 should always be the first step in any medical emergency. When on the phone, be sure to remain calm. Provide the operator with your name, location, telephone number, and as much information as possible about the details of the incident. Do not hang up until you are directed to do so. Our address is 215 West C Street in Springfield, and our landline is 541-736-4444. Most times, staff will be using the center's cell phone to call 911. That phone number is 541-228-7212. The next step is to retrieve the emergency medical cart located in the office. Additional first aid kits are located in the office and the wood shop. Be sure to familiarize yourself with their locations. Do not move the victim unless you have no other option. Do not assist a patron who has fallen and is having difficulty getting up. They must be evaluated by 911 personnel prior to moving them to rule out possible fractures and other medical conditions. While you wait for 911, it's appropriate to perform first aid to the level of your certification. Remain with the victim until paramedics arrive and try to keep him or her as calm and comfortable as possible. Lastly, you will be required to complete an incident report form and notify your supervisor and risk manager. This process will be further explained later on in our training.
Come on! Who's home? Let me in!
When an individual is attacking or hurting themselves or others and is no longer responding to verbal communication, it's considered an emergency situation. Although there may not be any injuries, there can be potential dangers to self, others, or property, and it's imperative to control the situation immediately. Make sure you remain calm and clear the area of patrons. Do not at any point try to interfere with the aggressive person. Immediately implement lockdown procedures and then call 911 if you feel the situation is getting out of control. A lockdown is the confinement of people inside secured rooms for safety measures. Lockdowns are usually ordered by law enforcement, but there also may be situations in which another designee could be responsible for communicating emergency procedures. For example, a lockdown could be implemented in the case of a robbery of an armed person outside the building, unusual suspect alert, or any circumstance that the facility manager deems necessary. At the Adult Activity Center, a lockdown should occur in the Santiam room if you're on the east side of the building, or the Alder room if you're on the west side. The front desk will alert staff and patrons by announcing,
"A lockdown of the center has been ordered. Please remain calm. Walk directly to the Santiam room if you are on the east side of the building, or Alder room if you are on the west side. Thank you."
If you cannot safely reach either one of these rooms, and you're already in a secure, non-visible space, remain where you are. After entering the room, immediately lock the door. Turn off the lights, pull the shades closed, and sit on the floor away from the windows. While waiting for the police, provide first aid if anyone is injured. Remain in the room until the incident commander or designee announces the end of the lockdown, or if a police officer arrives and permits people to leave. Following the incident, each employee will be required to fill out a witness statement. An emergency building evacuation could be necessary in the case of a fire, explosion, suspicious package, or a bomb threat. If there's a fire, the smoke alarms will automatically respond. If there is no fire, or if the alarm does not automatically activate, you must manually activate it yourself. In doing so, you will notify patrons and employees to exit the building, and you will also notify a professional response team that there's a problem. At the Adult Activity Center, there are fire alarms located at various points throughout the facility. After activating the alarm, designate a person to assist patrons in wheelchairs. Then proceed to the nearest exit in an orderly fashion. When you get outside, you should meet at the designated gathering area at the far end of the parking lot. You should then wait for further instructions. Each employee will have specific duties during evacuation that are outlined according to the job title. Request a copy of the plan from your supervisor. After each of these emergencies, as soon as it's practical, notify your supervisor and risk manager of the situation. All those involved in an incident, including witnesses, are required to fill out an incident report form. If an employee is involved, he or she is required to complete an employee incident report form. If the employee needs to seek professional medical attention, they must complete an 801 form. On the other hand, if a guest is involved, you should fill out a patron report form instead. It's important to complete the entire form and to explain the situation in detail. Be sure to include any corrective actions that could be taken to reduce the likelihood of a similar incident occurring in the future. Incident report forms are located on the printing web page under Risk Management and at the front desk. As a Willamette employee, you should play a key role in recognizing and preventing emergencies in the workplace. Adhering to risk management policies and following the correct emergency response procedures will help protect you and others in the case of an incident. You should fully expect to respond to an emergency that may be similar to the scenarios in this training at some point during your employment. If you have any questions, please contact your supervisor or risk manager at 541-736-4030.